But first, President-elect Donald Trump's promise to roll back LGBTQ freedoms has some families in our area racing to reinforce legal protections that would legitimize their family in the eyes of the government that they worry may no longer guarantee their rights. Joining us to discuss the challenges facing same-sex families under a second Trump administration is Nidhi Desai, an attorney specializing in reproductive technology law. Welcome, Nidhi.
Thank you.
And also joining us is Tia Lantzy. She and her wife are parents of a 3-year-old son. Good to have you on the program, Tia.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
I'm going to start with you. Why don't you share your journey to parenthood with us?
Sure. So in 2020, my wife and I decided to have a baby or try to start having a baby. And luckily, our neighbor was a lawyer who worked in this realm and helped us with getting a donor contract together. And it worked right away, which I know is really rare
Wow.
for a lot of parents. And now we have a gorgeous, smart, funny baby angel named
That's
Archie.
Wonderful. So your name, though, it's on your son's birth certificate, Tia, and you are no longer sure that that is enough.
Right. So my name is on the birth certificate as the parent. However, we did talk to our lawyer about this, and she did express that birth certificates are administrative forms. They're great for the person whose birth certificate it is, but it's not necessarily showing that you are the legal parent.
Yeah. So you're trying to strengthen your parental rights if you can.
Correct. Yes, because as far as I know currently, there's a presumption of parentage because of our marriage. You know, we were married in 2018, and Archie was born in 2021. So currently, I'm his parent, and I'm his parent no matter what. But legally, if same-sex marriage gets rolled back, that becomes a little scarier because there are 35 states that currently have same-sex marriage bans in their constitution.
Yeah.
So that's really, really scary. And a lot of our family, my wife and I, our family live in those states where the bans exist.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's bring you in here, Nidhi. I'm assuming you're hearing similar concerns from other same-sex couples with kids.
I am. I'm hearing from people who in the past have gone through parentage orders and second parent adoptions, and those who have been thinking about it and not quite gotten around to doing it and are starting the process now. Everyone is really terrified and wanting to make sure that their families are legally secure entering the new year.
What are you advising them to do?
So the first thing we want to do is take a look at what they've already done, if anything. And you are a very good listener. That's absolutely right. So a birth certificate is an administrative document. It is not a legal. It's not a legal judgment. So what you want is a legal order establishing your parentage, so that if you step foot outside of the state, that order will then be given full faith and credit, so that you'll get your parentage order or adoption respected. So we want to make sure there's an order in every case to make sure that family is legally secure.
The U.S. Supreme Court made same-sex marriage the law of the land back in 2015. Nidhi, how worried are you that the court could overturn same-sex marriage rights, just like it did abortion?
Right. So in the abortion decision, the now famous concurrence talked about how all of those unenumerated rights were fair game now. And so, to be honest, we're worried, and we don't think we can count on a Obergefell being law of the land forever. So, and hopefully we are wrong, but better to be protective than not in this environment.
So, Tia, how worried are you about what a second Trump administration could bring for LGBTQ people?
I'm worried for all of us. Personally, I'm worried for my family, but I have a large community of friends and neighbors that are also going to be affected or may possibly be affected by this, whether it's on a federal level. I have a lot of friends in the trans part of the LGBTQ community, so I'm really concerned for them. I'm afraid to go into a different state with my son, and if something were to happen and we had to go to the hospital, would I be denied I like to hope that wouldn't happen. I'd like to hope that the world is better than that.
Mm-hmm.
But 74 million people are telling me it's not. So, I have to
Yeah.
listen to that too.
If you're just tuning in, this is Reset. I'm Sasha-Ann Simons. We're talking about how Trump's second presidency might impact LGBTQ families with Nidhi Desai, who's an attorney specializing in reproductive technology law. She's also a technology policy director for the Academy of Adoption and Assisted Reproduction Attorneys. And Tia Lantzy is here with us. She and her wife are parents of a 3-year-old son. Now, for more on this story, head over to suntimes.com. Nidhi, during the 2024 presidential election, so in the last several weeks and months, Donald Trump has promised to roll back LGBTQ rights. Now, some have speculated that maybe it was just campaign rhetoric, right? And maybe he was just trying to excite his conservative base. But others are actually worried. They're saying, yeah, no, I think he really does intend to follow through on those promises. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are we need to be prepared for the worst. And so that means, in addition to having parentage orders in place, everyone needs to make sure that their estate planning is up to date, that you have health care powers of attorney so that your spouse has the right to make decisions for you if you are in a state that's not respecting your legal status. And so better just to be safe and make sure that, worst comes to worst. We've done all of this work, but things are better than we thought they were going to be. So I'm just trying to be calm, but make sure that each one of my clients is as protected as they can be.
And you're getting a lot of phone calls.
Getting a lot of phone calls. It was just like after the Dobbs decision, where the minute that came down that next morning, there must have been a dozen people calling. And the same thing has happened this time. And this time people are really terrified because the Dobbs decision came down. It was a court decision, but this is a 4-year administration, and we don't know what's going to happen next.
Tia, yesterday, House Speaker Mike Johnson announced a transgender bathroom ban in the U.S. Capitol, just as the first openly transgender person was elected to Congress. Your reaction to that?
I think it was intentional because yesterday was Trans Day
of Remembrance.
So it feels more like a knife to the heart of the LGBT community, especially the trans community. I think it's ridiculous, honestly. I think, why are we worried about what people are doing in the we're all going to the bathroom, we're not having a party in there. There's nothing that we should be worried about. And it's very concerning. Another thing that's really concerning is that back in 2016, during Trump's first election, he did express that he would consider appointing Supreme Court justices and roll back same-sex marriage. So I think, there've been some. I've had people say this might be alarmist, and you're thinking about this in a way where,
like, he's threatened this before.
Right. So it's not coming out of nowhere. It's coming from his words and the words of people that were in his administration and will be in his administration.
Why are folks like you, Nidhi, taking it more seriously this time?
Well, one thing to keep in mind is if, like Dobbs, same-sex marriage were rolled back, it would go to the states to make decisions. And so then your very fear of entering into another state becomes even more real. So I think we are being cautious because we don't want to be surprised. And so we want to make sure, again, that each one of our citizens in Illinois have done everything that they can do to legally secure their family, and grateful that we're in a state that offers so many protections. As a trans person, also, if you haven't corrected your gender marker on your birth certificate, you should do that. It's a very simple thing to do, so that's something to look into as well.
Some people believe the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 report that's going to be used as a blueprint for the new administration's priorities. It actually says government officials should only recognize marriages between a man and a woman, and that a man and a woman are the natural family structure. I'm looking at you, Tia, because I feel like that's got to be alarming for you and other families like yours.
It is. It's very alarming. It's alarming that people are even thinking that way anymore because of the world has changed. The world has changed around us. There are all kinds of family compositions. There are grandparents that take care of their children. There are non-parents taking care of children. There's adoption. Same-sex parents are taking care of their children, and I argue that we really are, self-aware and making sure that for Archie, for our son, that he's exposed to different people that are different than us, people that are different than him. It's just very scary I read the first 180 days of the Project 2025 plan. It's all terrifying.
Oh, the first 180 pages?
It is, like their first 180-day
Oh,
plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrifying for a lot of people.
Right. And I don't just want to focus on worst case scenarios today, but I do think we do need to lay out some fears and what some fears are for the next 4 years. What's going through your mind, Nidhi?
So one of the other aspects of this that I work on a lot is dealing with IVF, people who are going through fertility treatment, and making sure that we protect the right of a patient and a physician to make decisions based on their best interest and not somebody's governmental agenda. And so that's what we're beginning to see come down the pike in various states, laws that are rolling back people's abilities to do that. And of course, famously in Alabama last year, there was a very striking Supreme Court decision that declared an embryo was the same as a human being. Mm-hmm. And that really set off a storm that we're just beginning to see play out now.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the flip side, is anything giving you hope right now, Tia?
My family is stepping up, and obviously I live in a community that is just so loving, and we all care for each other, and this brings us even closer, much like any tragedy, which, typically brings people closer. Mm-hmm. We're all protecting each other a lot more and being there for each other a lot more.
Nidhi?
I love that. I think the thing that gives me hope being in Illinois is that we have a community that is very accepting and caring and focused on, in my opinion, all the right things. And so we are trying to shore things up legislatively. We're trying to make sure that if somebody enters, these borders, that they're going to be protected, and you can only control what you can control. So, that's what's giving me hope right now.
My thanks to attorney Nidhi Desai and parent Tia Lantzy for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.